Welcome back to another edition of the Night Report podcast. I'm your host, Mike Broadbent. Joining me once again is my co-host, Richie Schneiderite, and part-time co-host / Rutgers beat reporter, Craig Epstein. Guys, this weekend was another kind of bad weekend for Rutgers. Sports, anyway. Rutgers lost yesterday to Purdue, but they did cover, so I guess that's one thing. They lost 68-60. The wrestling program suffered another defeat by the Big Five, falling to Minnesota 20-12. We do have some positive recruiting news we'll touch on at some point as well from the events. We had an official visitor for basketball. We had a pretty big junior day group there for the game as well. So the crowd was, obviously very raucous. So I'm sure that they had a good impression, even though Rutgers lost. But let's talk about that loss. Rutgers lost 68-60 to Purdue. This is a game that Rutgers really kind of roared back in the second half. They went into halftime down 13. And there were points where the game got to 2 points. Rutgers, looked like they might go on a run, but then Purdue was able to answer each and every time. Let's talk high level. Craig, what did you think about this game and kind of how Rutgers played and why they ended up losing?
Yeah, it was kind of a tale of two halves where the first half was just kind of what we've come to expect with Rutgers at this point. I mean, the shooting was just abysmal. They made, I think, 9 shots in the first half. They ended up shooting 26.5% in the half. I mean, we said it on Twitter. I mean, they were really lucky to be down by 13, honestly, going into the half. The fact that a number 2 team in the country like Purdue doesn't really bury you when you just have that bad of an offensive half is just you're lucky. And then the second half, they came out and they just kind of looked like a completely different team. It was strange because the first half, it felt like all they took were mid-range shots. First half they were just not going down. And second half, they did start to go down. And then, like we said, they started to piece their way back, made it a one-possession game multiple times. It felt like Rutgers, maybe if they could just get that lead, get just maybe one more run, that they could take control of this game and the Rack would just start, producing some more of its magic. But they just couldn't break through. They just couldn't get it. And like we've said in the past, where this team where we say put together 40 minutes, you'll probably win. If you put together 33 minutes, you probably win this game. So it's unfortunate that, again, Rutgers wasn't able to, just put together that complete performance because, again, if they did this, we probably would have been talking about, once again, another Rack Magic type of game against Purdue.
Yeah. The tale of two halves thing is like 100%. Like that's the name of the game, at least for this one on Sunday. They can't score. They never have all season long, and they still can't score. Free throw shooting sucks still. 3-point shooting sucks still. I don't even know like what else to say. It was a bad game, and it sucks because they won the turnover battle, they won the rebounding battle. They just can't make baskets at the end of the day. They go down 8. Instead of going down and building it back up and getting down to like a 4-point, 3-point game, they let it go to like, what was the biggest lead they had? They had a 14-point lead with 15 minutes left. So, and then they fought back. They had a nice little 7-0 run that came out of nowhere. It's like, oh my God, offense. Wow, this is weird. And then all of a sudden it just fell apart again. They couldn't close. It is what it is, and they just always have a good game plan for Purdue, and especially when it's at home. But yeah, I mean, the crowd did as much as they could, and it is what it is. It's another loss at the end of the day. You can't really. I see some people saying like, "Yeah, great effort." I'm like, "Yeah, man, it's still another loss. Like you could have had this one. You had all the numbers to back it up. In rebounding, turnovers, every defense. You just didn't have the offense to pull off another magical win against Purdue."
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm leaning with this, where Rutgers had 15 offensive rebounds in this game. Purdue only had 6. They won the rebounding battle in general, 36-32. Rutgers, just like you said, they couldn't hit a shot. They were 9 for 20 at the rim, so another game under 50% at the rim. They took another 26 mid-range shots. They were 11 for 26 from the mid-range. I really don't know why those aren't 3-pointers. Like, how many 18-footers did we take yesterday that we settled for?
We were counting at one point. Well, I was counting at one point.
Purdue had 4 mid-range shots the entire game. Like, these teams that we face that have a modern understanding of offensive basketball do not take mid-range shots because they're the least efficient shot on the court, and we continually just do this like DeMar DeRozan style game where we try and back down guys and just settle for the shot at the elbow. Like, we have to get a better concept of offensive basketball for next year, because those shots are just not worth taking in general. Like, if they're wide open, it's one thing, and you're getting it in rhythm occasionally, that's fine. At the end of the shot clock, maybe. But we're taking these kind of mid-range shots, 20 seconds left on the shot clock, and it just makes no sense. One really positive I thought from the game, even though his numbers don't look that great, Gavin Griffiths, he scored 8 points. We've been talking about it over and over. Like, this kid has a ton of talent, and he just needs to kind of shoot through this freshman slump. And he only went 3 for 11 in the game, but you saw that kind of confidence start to creep back in the second half. When he hit that 3-pointer at the beginning of the second half, like, I don't think I've ever seen somebody that hyped for a shot with 18 minutes left in the game when you're down like 8 points. Like, he was, maybe it wasn't 8, but he was so hyped. He was pumping his fist. He was screaming. Comes back down. I think the next possession hits that fadeaway on the baseline. Like, this is a guy who we really need to start get going and kind of get his feet underneath him going into next year, because he's going to be a piece that we rely on. We need, a third scorer for next year when Ace and Dylan are here. Currently, I don't know who that guy is on the roster. We thought maybe Mawat Mag would be that guy, but Mawat had a terrible day yesterday. He went 0 for 6 from the field. He only had 1 rebound, 2 assists. Like, Mawat, if he's not getting, his 15 points we've become accustomed to, we usually see him, really amp it up on the defensive side of the ball. He only had 1 steal, no blocks. He played 25 minutes. He just had a rough game. And usually Mawat steps up for these big games, so I don't really know what happened with him yesterday. But, I mean, you guys said it before. We are seeing these same issues that we see game after game. We can't hit threes. We can't hit shots at the rim. And we're not great shooting free throws. And if you look at, where Rutgers ranks in a lot of these areas, Rutgers in effective field goal percentage is 356th out of 362 teams in college basketball. In terms of 2-point percentage, they're 350th out of 362. And 3-point percentage, they're 331st out of 362. So they can't hit shots anywhere on the court. That's, partially because you run this totally disjointed offense. And partially, honestly, guys, because we're just kind of at a talent deficiency. We talked about this a few pods. I truly think that circumstance kind of screwed us this year with some of these guys. If, like, for example, if Cam Spencer leaves the first week in March versus the end of May, I fully expect Pike to go into the portal and look for a number 1 scorer. But because of the way things played out, it just wasn't in the cards. I think Paul was a significant loss too, but not to the same level as Cam Spencer, because Cam Spencer, he papered over so many problems offensively last year. Mm-hmm. He won games on his own, either from late game free throw shooting or hitting clutch shots. Northwestern comes to mind, Purdue comes to mind. There's a lot of games last year where you think, we're not winning that game without Cam Spencer. And there's a few games this year, the Ohio State game, this past game, like, if we had a go-to scorer, we'd probably win those games. So I don't know. This feels like it's starting to be a little bit of a lost season, and it just needs to kind of start focusing on development. Like, of our final 11 games, we're favored in 3.
Yikes.
Like, this is going to be a pretty tough stretch the rest of the season. Not that we've talked about how the schedule gets easier, mm-hmm. but I do think we need to kind of start being realistic with expectations at this point.
Yeah, I think it'll also be kind of a telling stretch because, like you said, they got Penn State coming up on Wednesday night, and who knows, they have a little bit of an injury bug right now. We'll see how that affects them. But that's a game Rutgers should probably, especially being at home, that's a game Rutgers should win. So this type, even though it's 1 game in really end of January, this is going to kind of tell you a lot about where this team is and what could end up being, because the freshmen Gavin and Jermichael Davis had a pretty good night, or a pretty good day against Purdue, and that's Purdue, number 2 team in the country. I thought Gavin, like we said about Gavin, I think he was just a lot more active on the offensive end and really the defensive end. You could just see sometimes you look at his stat line, 3 for 11 for 8 points isn't great. But if you just go beyond that and you just watch him, like you said, you see his confidence, you see him just kind of in the flow. of the game more. He didn't just look really just lost out there. You could see maybe now things are starting to click for him a little bit better. And I think just on the defensive end, I think even though, I think he's listed as a guard, like he's not like he can't be a guard, honestly, at this point. Watching him, he's just too slow-footed. These guys just run around him. So just wait. Next year, once he starts putting really more muscle onto his body, I think you're going to see him probably defend more of like forwards and things like that. And he did help, even though he didn't get really that many rebounds. I could see him affecting really, getting his body in there and really affecting and helping Rutgers get some more rebounds out, rebounding Purdue yesterday. So we'll see how they develop. Same with JaMychal Davis. And now, like you said, I don't think that, like we've talked about, I don't think this is a postseason team, but let's see how this team develops now going forward if the schedule lightens up a bit.
Yeah. He's a 3-man. That's what he is. He's just going to have to be a 3-man. He's 6'7". You don't have a choice. And like you said, he's too slow-footed to guard any guard in the league. I think someone said that in preseason. I think all of us did, actually. But everyone on the boards was like, no, he's a guard. He's a guard. He's going to play guard. He wants to be a guard. I'm like, yeah, Andre Hyatt wants to play guard too. Unfortunately, he's not playing guard. Like, you can call yourself a big guard all you want, but you're not a guard. 9 of 28 in the paint yesterday. Disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. They went 0 of 11 in the paint that wasn't at the rim. That's just brutal. They can't hit a shot. Like, they're going up for like contested layups. And even if they get a foul call, they're not hitting the free throws. It's like, It's just a redundant possession. At that point, I'm on the verge of just saying, hey, dude, just start chucking from 3. I don't really care. But going back to what Mike said before, they do have to just go for development at this point. Start JaMychal Davis, please. Please. I've been saying this the past 3 or 4 podcasts. Just start him. Like, I think he's the better guard at this point. I hate to say it, I think he's better than Derek Simpson. Derek Simpson's last 5 games, 26% from the field. Last 6 games, 28% from the field. Like, I'm sorry, but I need more scoring out of my point guard that's supposed to be one of my top 3 scorers on the court. I think you just got to switch it up. And then maybe even you saw Gavin Griffith get pretty hyped. Throw him out there more. Like, just let him go nuts. Like, let him go. Like Mike said, I've never seen a kid so happy to hit a 3-pointer that made him, 1 of 5? Like,
yeah.
Like, let him go out there, let him gain his confidence back. There were only, and going back to the JaMychal Davis thing, there were only 2 players on the team yesterday that had a positive plus-minus. I know it's not the end-all, be-all stat, but JaMychal Davis at +1 and Austin Williams +6. I think you start those 2. I think you have to switch it up. You have to keep trying stuff. And it also helps with development because JaMychal Davis might be your starting guard next year.
Yeah, no, he could be. I don't expect that, but it's definitely a possibility for sure. I do think that these small guards have really hurt Rutgers offensively. If you just look at the 3 small guards at the rim this year, between Noah, between Derek, and between JaMychal, they're shooting combined 38.7% at the rim. Like, they're just not able to get clean looks at the basket, and the ones they do, they're not making. So there's just, I don't know, there's just a lot of problems offensively with this team. I really hope that next year they do hire some kind of offensive coordinator. I know we've talked about this, but they just need somebody to kind of oversee the offense moving forward, in my opinion. There's just not a cohesive element to anything they do. They started running, these, like, they don't even run like a high ball screen every play. They're just kind of like, whirring around kind of aimlessly. And occasionally when they do call a set play and it looks good, they don't ever go back to it. It's just, I don't know.
We've also talked about where it seems like they score. They're just better offensively when it's more like transition, more like just fast-paced offense. So I don't know why sometimes they don't just kind of pick up the speed and just keep the ball moving, more on offense. They just run just the half-court offense and it just results in nothing.
Yeah. Well, effective field goal percentage is pretty cool. They're almost at the bottom of NCAA D1. Like, their tempo's technically up, I think, from last year. I think they're 192 this year, according to Ken Palm. I don't know what. I think last year they were in the 200s. So I mean,
we
they're
talked
moving.
about it in the preseason. Like, this team has speed, but it just it doesn't seem like they utilize it.
And not that they don't utilize it; they just
not as well as they could, at least.
Like, it's it goes back to the thing. It's square peg, round hole. Like, you have some pieces that could run up and down the court, but like other pieces are just like lost and like trailing behind. Like I don't know. It's tough and it sucks because I thought actually Cliff had a great game against Zach Edey, at least in the first half.
Yeah.
And then you put Wolf Folk, he gets a little bit bodied, and it's like, all right, put Cliff back out there. Then Cliff gets a little bodied again in the second half, and I'm like, oh shit. Like, all right, well, there goes that plan. It's over.
I do think they played Edey really, really well. If we want to talk about another positive, like that was it was long stretches in the first half where he wasn't involved at all. Like he was just kind of like places underneath the basket or like along the baseline where he had no looks at the hoop.
Yep.
You know, we forced a lot of bad shots from him in the first half. Even Wolf gave us some really good defensive minutes in the first half.
Yeah.
But slowly, I mean, Edey, like they were really calling, like anytime Rutgers seemed to like look at him wrong, they were calling a foul. Like Edey had as many free throws as Rutgers did as a team in terms of foul shots. So I'm not saying that the game was called unfairly. It's just like he's basically like Shaquille O'Neal in college basketball. Like you have to be super aggressive with him. You have to be physical, and he'll fight through a lot that doesn't look like a foul. But then on replay, it's like, oh yeah, somebody was holding his arm, but he's just this alien in the paint.
Yeah,
like it was really funny. We've seen it for 3 or 4 years now, but seeing him standing next to Cliff is just it looks like he looks like Cliff is like the JV center rolling out to guard the varsity center in Edey. It's just not easy to defend him, and Rutgers did a pretty admirable job overall, but it just wasn't enough in general.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be honest. I'm kind of I don't know. Maybe it's just because I don't watch Purdue that much, but I'm kind of sniffing because it felt like I don't know. It just felt like yesterday they were a little bit of the kind of teams from the years past where they kind of get knocked out early in March, where it's just like once they run into problems, the game plan is just dump it to Edey, and I'm like, I don't know if that's gonna work come March time. So I don't know. I might be kind of sniffing or another early exit for Purdue. I'm not gonna say they're gonna lose to a 16 seed again. I'm also not gonna say.
So Edey's a really good passer too. If you dump it down and he gets doubled, there's going to be somebody open, and he's really good at finding that open guy on the perimeter. And they have, last year I think they had a lot of problems because their 2 main guards were both freshmen, and now that they're sophomores, I think they've gotten a little bit better. You watch that guy Lance Jones yesterday. He was while he didn't score a lot, he was doing basically everything else for them. He had 5 steals, 8 assists, 10 rebounds. Like that's the kind of stuff we're used to from a guy like a Caleb McConnell, who maybe he didn't have the best scoring night, or a Moat Mag, maybe he didn't have the best scoring night, but he was filling up the stat sheet elsewhere. Even a guy like Mason Gillis, I can't believe he's not starting for them still. He had a really good night. Like they have dudes outside of Edey this year that they didn't have in years past, in my opinion. So yeah, certainly everything does go through Edey, and if Edey isn't making free throws, if Edey isn't able to, get those putbacks, he had 5 of their 6 offensive rebounds. Like half the time he just kind of stands there with his arms straight up and gets the ball because he's just that much of a physical mismatch. I think this is easily the best Purdue team we've seen in recent memory. Like I do think there is a difference between the past few years and this year.
I'm just saying they better not run into a Jersey mid-major.
It's true.
I'll go out on a limb and say that they're probably going to lose to the 8-9 seed. Yeah. I don't think it's already a limb, but like you never know.
I think this year's field is particularly weak. Yeah. So I think there'll be a lot fewer big time upsets like that than years past. Yeah, so maybe we'll put a pin in that, and you guys can remember and call out one of us in March.
I mean, we see people on Twitter claiming 2 Ivy Leagues.
Oh my God! Let's not give any oxygen to that fire. All right, so we kind of beaten this game to death. Rutgers did have quite a few visitors on campus for this one, though.
We want to start with the hoops one now?
Yeah, let's start with the hoops one. So Rutgers had an official visitor for hoops on campus, Jalen Harrell, who had made an unofficial visit in September, I believe, to a football game.
Correct.
He is a top 100 player in the class of 2025. I think he's ranked in the 90s. He's from Massachusetts. He's a small forward. He has Rutgers and Providence, I believe, as his top 2 right now.
Xavier's kind of like on the outside looking in as a third.
Xavier's on the outside looking in. How did his visit go, and where do you think Rutgers stands in terms of a confidence interval here?
So it's interesting. He had a good time. Obviously, like you can't really have a bad time when everyone's paying for your meals. You get a whole free trip. You get to go check out everything. So I mean, yeah, it's a free weekend basically to do whatever you want. Top 100 recruit Jalen Harrell. Now he's listed as a small forward, but again, it's one of these guys that I'm a big guard. I'm like, whatever, dude. You call yourself what you want. When you get here, when you're playing the three, it is what it is. He's a good player though. I thought Rutgers did a pretty good job. TJ Thompson's the lead guy here, as he is with just about every New England kid based on his connections. It sounds like Rutgers made up a lot of ground. Going into this, it sounded like it was all Providence all the way. But they made up a lot of ground. I'd say it's pretty even right now. The only concern is that he's going to visit Providence in a month. He's Xavier next weekend for an official visit, and they're on the way outside, like, I shouldn't say distant third place, but they're not close to the first two either. So he's going to go visit them next weekend. Then he has Providence on the 3rd, or no, I'm sorry, on the 8th of March. And he did the same thing with Providence. He took an official visit to them in fall, or unofficial visit in fall, and now an official visit in March. I still think he's probably going to end up at Providence. NIL is a factor here, so we're going to see what happens there. Providence, don't sleep on their NIL collective. They have a lot more money than people think. Those Big East schools invest a ton of money into basketball because, well, they got nothing else to invest into. And it's still arguably I shouldn't say this out loud, but I think the Big East might be a better conference than the Big Ten. Like it's very, very close. The Big East is very good. And I know everyone talks about the Big Ten and football and all this, and they have this and money, but it's still the Big East is still a dominant basketball conference at the end of the day. I still think he's going to end up at Providence, but I think Rutgers made up a lot of ground this weekend, so it's going to be closer than I originally expected.
Yeah, we were hearing a lot of rumblings about NIL playing a huge factor in this recruitment. Do you still see that as one of the main drivers, or is this kind of more wide open now?
Yeah, I think it's still a main driver. Even before I got a chance to reach out to the kid, not today, back when he was planning his visit in fall, I had an agent reach out to me. He's like, "Hey, man, just so you know, like my guy Jalen Harrell," and I'm like, "Oh, your guy? Like, are you like his uncle? Like your coach? Like what is he?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm his advisor," and I'm like, "Here we go."
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, that's the name of the game these days. It's funny because this is all above board now, but back in the day, it used to be, this is the bag man, or this is the handler, this is,
this is the guy who gets the McDonald's bag full of cash.
Yep. All right, so that's positive. This is a high-level kid, so it'd be a pretty big recruiting win.
Yeah.
But there was also a bunch of football visitors there as well. You said that there was about 30 junior day kids there. Talk about how the experience they had, and if there's any specific guys that stand out in terms of the time they had.
Yeah, so based on it's still early, we're still getting a lot of feedback. We'll have an article out later today with more in-depth quotes and stuff, but it sounds like it went pretty good. Got to talk to some of the guys. They got to connect with some of the new coaches, specifically the defensive line coaches. Colin Farrell is going to be a monster on the recruiting trail. I said it last podcast, and I was a little hesitant to say it, but now I'm very adamant about it. He's going to be just as good a recruiter as Marquise Watson when it's all said and done. He is phenomenal on the trail. These guys love him. Jersey dudes love him because he's a Jersey guy at the end of the day. I think they did really well there. Jalen Matthews was there. He's probably the biggest name from Jersey that showed up to campus, I would think. Him or John Forster, you kind of argue, but he looked like he was having a good time. Who's the other one? Tyler Merrill's a top 100 kid in 2026, just got an offer. He had a good time. Just going through the list, it seemed like everyone just had a really good time. Now, mind you, I think a lot of people are pissed at maybe not the football recruits, but the football staff for taking up the student section. But that's a conversation we could push down a little later in the pod. But yeah, it sounds like everyone had a pretty good time. They got to meet the coaches, got to hang out again. Joel Hall was there. I think he's one of the top wide receiver targets for Rutgers in this class. Keep a close eye on him. Michael Troutman, one of the best linemen in this class. It just was an overall really good visit, and it's just good to get these kids back on campus and just get them around the staff as much as possible.
Yeah, I mean, we've heard that complaint for as long as we've been fans that, the football recruits take up a big section and, messes with the crowd and the atmosphere, blah, blah, blah. Some students who want to go in, like, they've been doing this forever. It's not going to change until the arena gets renovated, so I think we could just stop complaining about it. Like, it is what it is. We said that earlier. This is a huge recruiting event for football.
Mm-hmm.
Same way that basketball comes and has their visitors come for football games. It's just like it's a recruiting tool for these programs, and you have to kind of think of it that way, that it's a good thing that they want to bring these guys to games, because that shows what Rutgers can be like in terms of an atmosphere when things are rolling, and things currently aren't rolling for the basketball program. And to have a crowd like we had on Sunday is a testament to kind of how strong that program is, and it's kind of the way football is shaping up too. Like, we're going to have probably the best crowds in a decade this season for football. So it's going to help the basketball program as well when you have these kids like Trey McKinney coming for the second official visit for a night game in September. You know what I mean? I'm just throwing out random stuff here, but it helps both programs. Yeah. So
it goes back and forth. Like, they host basketball recruits, they host football recruits. It's just how it works, and it's never going to change until they renovate the arena, like you said. Now, that being said, I saw some debates on Twitter about how to fix this. It's kind of already in motion a little bit. We talked to Hobbs, and Hobbs said it. Like, he hinted at it because some genius on Twitter found it and circled it and tweeted it out. They're going to move the students along the baseline. They're going to move the students along the sideline. They're going to move some students to the other baseline. It's going to be like a little kind of weird shaped U, I guess, half a rectangle. I don't even know.
Dome of students.
Well, it's weird because, like, it's only going to be the first 3 rows of the 100s, and then they're going to put them on both baselines. Like, I'm sorry, but that's the right thing to do too. Like, I think that's how you get a more crazy, raucous environment. Like, that's just gonna make this place go even crazier.
And I know this isn't like the main consideration, but when you see that on TV, like for example, like the Breslin Center sounds pretty similar to what we're gonna do, where they have like a thin strip of students along, the 100 level. It just is aesthetically like really intimidating from being on the court and seeing it on TV. A lot of these top programs do it. Duke does it at their arena. I can keep naming programs, but we're kind of in the minority of ones that just kind of stuff the students in one, not corner, but one end of the baseline. Because this also creates an environment where, in the second half of the first half, depending on, which direction the away team is shooting, you're not really having that same advantage that you would when you have to play into the student section. So
yeah, I've said it for years. I don't know why they just didn't put the students basically on the floor like that, because like you said, just the environment, aesthetically, noise wise, everything about it would just be just so much better.
Yeah, I mean, I think they just didn't want to upset ticket holders for the longest time, and the renovation gives the opportunity to kind of shake things up. So
yeah,
no choice.
All right, let's talk some Rutgers wrestling.
Oh,
lacrosse. We can talk.
I do want to talk about it before we're done. Yeah.
Yep. So Rutgers wrestling, they had their second opportunity for an upset this season. They faced off against number 9 ranked Minnesota. They lost 20-12. This was a match that was there for the taking. Let's be honest. Rutgers lost 2 matches in sudden victory. They lost 2 matches due to a takedown in the final seconds. One was awarded to Rutgers with Michael Chetta getting a takedown as time expired, and then that was overturned. Another that was given to Minnesota that they reviewed and was upheld against Brian Soldano. I mean, Soldano had a win that was basically stifled at the last second. We had a lot of guys get upset. You saw Jarrett Joles take down John Poznansky at 97. You saw Tyler Wells take down Dylan Shawver at 133. I don't have a great answer because I'm not like a wrestling buff, but this felt very similar to the Michigan match, where every single match where it seemed like we could start taking momentum back, we found a way to kind of squander Didn't really come up big when we needed to. So this has to be a gut punch for the program, because I know that they really wanted to get a win against the Big Five, one of the Big Five this year, and now they've already lost 2 of those opportunities, and they have another one with Ohio State this upcoming weekend on Sunday. Yeah. But they've got to be feeling a lot of wind out of their sails right now.
Yeah, I don't know. Like you kind of said, I don't really know what the issue is. They're winning a couple matches that they're winning the matches, some of the matches they should, and then they're losing some of the matches they should win. Like the Poznansky one was bad. Soldano again, I don't know what's going on with him this year. Turley's pretty good, which was cool, and this is supposed to be one of their better lineups in recent history. It sucks. It's a kick in the nuts, and if they don't, I know you said they wanted to win one of the Big Five, but like one of them, I'm probably going to mark a loss. Ohio State's probably going to be a loss if I had to guess. It's tough. It's tough to get up when they can't get past that middle threshold of the wrestling rankings. Like they're at what was it? They're at 13 right now. They really can't get higher than that. Like maybe they'll get 12, but like they're struggling to get to that next level. And I don't know if it's a development thing. I think part of it probably has to go back to the wrestling club, and it's more like you need better athletes there to help train and everything, but you also need money. So it's a double-edged sword. Like you need more money, but you need better athletes. You need better athletes, but you need more money to get those athletes. So it's like, and then you need NIL money on top of that. So it's tough. I just until like they get more money, it's really, you're just sitting in like the 12 to 15, 16 range. So
yeah, I mean, for the longest time it was we can't develop at the upper weights, and now we finally have 3 really good upper weights guys, but they're just not winning these tough matches when you really need them to. Like I think Brian Soldano's taken a step back this year. John Poznansky's been pretty reliable. Obviously he lost against Minnesota, but I don't have a magic bullet solution to this.
I don't know if there is one.
I just wanted to kind of talk about it, but yeah, another tough loss for the wrestling program.
Yeah.
They do wrestle Ohio State on Sunday at 1 p.m. at Jersey Mike's. They're ranked 7th currently in the country, so that's another opportunity for a big win. I don't have in front of me Ohio State's lineup. It's going to be tough to beat them, regardless of where their strengths or weaknesses are. But I do expect another great crowd, because it looked like a great crowd on BTN Plus for the Minnesota match, but obviously it didn't result in a win. But it is what it is. Like we said earlier, that's the theme of the pod. It is what it is this year.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Let's talk some positive news. Lacrosse. And you'll probably be saying, what are you talking about lacrosse? They had a scrimmage against Villanova this past weekend. Villanova is usually a pretty good lacrosse program. I think they won something like 15-3.
Yes.
They really turned it on in the second half. And Coach Brian Brecht was speaking to some donors this past weekend and was talking about their stadium plans. You pulled out some pictures of the stadium plans from some sources. Let's talk about lacrosse, Rich. You got some info here.
Yeah, I mean, starting with the scrimmage. So they're an interesting team this year. I was actually talking to a lot of people about it yesterday at the basketball game. At halftime, I believe they were tied in the scrimmage, and then they just went on this crazy run. From what I was told, it's going to take a lot of gelling because there's a lot of transfers coming in. They're still trying to figure out the lineups and stuff like that, trying to mix and match guys. It's a scrimmage, so it's essentially what a scrimmage is. Just play around with your roster, see what you could do. But as long as these guys gel pretty good together, they should have a pretty good season. Other than that, we tweeted out the lacrosse. Well, I shouldn't say go back to Coach Brecht was in New York City meeting with some donors, I believe, or whatever it was. And he was talking about how he actually went out on Twitter and even put it out there saying like, our new lacrosse stadium project. And everyone's like, wait, what? I'm sitting here like, yeah, the thing we tweeted out in June 2023? Yeah, that thing. Let's tweet it out again. Look, got another 20,000 views because people just, I guess, didn't believe us. Do you believe us now? Rutgers Rivals has the scoops, buddy. It's going to go right where the blue lot is. People are going to be pissed about that. I don't know when it's going to start, but I know it's going to start relatively soon because they have the money for the field. So what they're doing first is they're going to put the field down, and they're going to use that as like a practice field, I guess, and stuff like that, and probably still use the stadium for games. And then they're going to build around the field and build like the fence and the stadium, the seating, and all that stuff. They're going to have hills on both sides, which I thought was kind of interesting, almost like the baseball stadium. So you can go and sit on the field and sit on the hill and watch the game there if you want. The rendering, like for you, those of you that haven't seen, let's see if I can pull this up real quick. Window, where is it? It is right here. It's pretty sharp looking. And I have to put that in the middle, sorry, because everyone else steals it and just throws it on other sites. So, but I mean, you could see this is like your sack, and then it just goes opposite direction of it, I guess. Mm-hmm. But yeah, no, I mean, it looks pretty damn nice. You get little scoreboards over here. You get solid seating. Based on what I was reading, it's projected at 5,000 seat stadium when it's all said and done. It's relatively bigger than most of the other stadiums or schools that have stadiums, I should say. Like I think Northwestern has one. I think Ohio State has one. There's someone, Maryland, I believe. But yeah, if you're in the blue lot, I'd start taking a peek into some other lots, and I'm going to highly recommend you don't go to the yellow because that's on its way out too. I know people are complaining about parking already. The project hasn't even started. People are like, "What the hell? What are we going to do with parking?" I'm like, honestly, you look at most other schools. This is what it is. You're going to have to park a little bit further, and you want to make this like an athletic circle. Like you want this to be athlete central minus basketball and baseball, and have that over there on that campus, and have all 5 stadiums here. It makes for a cool atmosphere too. Lacrosse is big. It's growing, and they're getting a lot of donors. So you kind of have to do something about it because one play on, and the reason that why can't they play on a soccer field? One plays on grass, one plays on turf. Completely different. Yep. Soccer on turf sucks. I'll speak from experience. It's awful.
Yeah, soccer on turf too is just ACL injuries waiting to happen. That. There's so many more lower body injuries playing on turf. It's also not great in terms of. I know that there's been some studies about goalies because they're always kind of in the turf and how damaging that could be as well. Yep. Not great.
And then there's the argument, why can't they use the football facility still? And it's like, you're tearing up the football field.
Yeah. Yep.
I forget what's going in the yellow lot.
The football facility.
Oh, okay.
The new football facility.
Makes sense, yeah.
Yeah. That will be announced, I guess, soonish. They started handing out packets to donors, and hey, you want to see an actual picture of that too? Because we got that one too.
Yeah, let's see it.
Hold on, I gotta pull this up. You gotta give me a sec. So, but yeah,
I do think that it's a big NIMBY problem and not my backyard issue, where everybody wants these things, but then if it affects them at all, they're pissed off about it. It's like, wait, I've been parking in the blue lot for this many years, and they're gonna get rid of it now. It's like this is big boy issues. You want to be a big boy athletic program. You got to make big boy decisions, and you got to do stuff like this. It's unfortunate. Nobody wants to negatively affect a specific group of fans, but you hear this with the basketball upgrades, you hear this with the facilities upgrades. It's going to affect somebody. You can't just create space out of thin air. This isn't freaking Minecraft, you know what I mean? It's you gotta put it somewhere, and unfortunately it's going to go in somebody's lot. If it's not blue, it's yellow. If it's not yellow, it's somewhere else.
Yeah, I mean, the lacrosse guys can't even get an extra work right now. They need to. That's the whole thing. You see all the basketball players are in the facility, 24/7 almost.
Mm-hmm.
So they need a spot to go get extra work, and that's what they're going to get eventually. Sooner rather than later, actually, shouldn't say eventually. And then this, as some call it, Greg Schiano's football palace. I think it looks great, to be honest with you. And that's just phase 1. I haven't even tweeted out phase 2 yet. We'll get down to that, but it's interesting. I like this whole setup because it opens right up to the football fields and outdoors. It makes sense. It looks good. You get to cut off that side road, whatever that road is, and you still kind of have parking here and here and here. It's, I don't know. It just this is what it's going to look like, and then there's your yellow lot, or whatever's left of it.
Yeah, I do think that people are justified in being concerned about the tailgating scene because it is
it's good.
It is a great tailgating scene. And when you remove two of the biggest lots, you got to put those people somewhere. And I don't know what the solution is.
The bubble. Just kidding. You can't get rid of that either.
I mean, the golf course makes the most sense, but you got people complaining about parking on the golf course. Like, you're not going to make everyone happy. There's always going to be people complaining. You know, I make this comparison. Like, some people who would complain if you gave them $1,000 and it was all in 100s because they can't spend hundreds in a lot of places. It's like, you're just not going to make everyone happy. So that's why they put people in positions that they have to make tough decisions, and they get paid big bucks to make tough decisions.
Yeah. So parking wise, like, you can't get rid of the bubble. I know everyone's like, get rid of the bubble, like open up a giant field. No, you need that bubble for the other sports. Like, there's a lot of sports that use it more than just football. So that's not going anywhere. So you're going to have to do the golf course, which is one that we've already been talked about. You're going to use probably the Rock Center parking here. You're going to use the yellow or whatever's left of the yellow here. You're going to use this thing, whatever, I don't know, other yellow lot here. I think this is brown or whatever it is. Use that. Where the tennis courts are, they already paved over the tennis courts. That's a parking lot now. So add that on top of the parking by the Hale. I think that's almost going to be like Scarlet Lot 2.0. So you just flip it on the other side. You still have the Scarlet Lot. You have the golf course, which you can walk over to. The golf course is close enough that if you park on it, it's really not that far from the stadium. And then, honestly, all those houses in those side streets are going to be making killer money. They're going to be paying $40, $50 a parking spot. The Greek church is a really good lot if you have fun there. They actually charge you. I mean, it's a little pricey. I think it's like near like $80, but you also get to tailgate with them, and they make food there every weekend too. It's a good little spot.
They also, I didn't realize this, they allow you to use their bathroom facilities. So you don't have to go in a porta potty. You can go in a real bathroom. So if you got, an older parent that you go to games with, or you have somebody who doesn't like to use a porta potty, which I know plenty of people like that.
Yep.
The Greek church is great. And I know some people are going to be like, don't give away the big secret. Like, the Greek church is a great lot to go tailgate in.
Yeah. I heard a couple some very specific Greek parents will be tailgating there as well.
Ooh, I wonder who we could be talking about there.
I don't know if there's any other Greek
that is
guy
now
on the
football
team.
team.
Yeah. So
Giannis.
Yeah,
Giannis.
Craig nailed it. All right, so we covered a lot here. Is there anything that we didn't hit on that you guys wanted to talk about before we head out?
I guess shout out to congrats to Isaiah Pacheco going back to the Super Bowl, second year in a row. Even though I'm a little tired of seeing his team win it every year. He's only been there for 2 years, so I guess he's not a part of that. But congrats to him. I saw him in Twitter. He's screaming, "Reppin' Jersey, mother!" That was a pretty.
You
cool...
can say that on this pod.
No, that was a cool moment. That was a cool moment. Though. I'm just really happy to see him actually like not only just being in the NFL. He's a real star. Like it's not like this isn't like Rutgers guys hyping up a Rutgers guy. This dude is becoming really a household name. He's basically one of. Oh, I guess you could make the argument Kelsey's bigger, but really one of the main pieces on possibly the best team in the league, and just really just happy to see what he's doing in the league. And now if Pacheco can just get the word in with Taylor Swift so we can get her on the pod, that would be awesome. Yeah, just tell her number 10 number 10 says, can you hop on the Rutgers Rivals pod? That would be sweet.
It's crazy. He's not even making a mill. Salary.
They're just I know. They're just good. I mean, he's just so good. Everybody who I watch with, like, whenever they watch him, they're just like amazed by him, just because he's just such a violent runner. Like, he's just amazing to watch. He's just amazing. Like, he's just exactly the type of player where if you're playing against him, you just hate his guts, but if you're like rooting for him, you just love the guy.
Did you see the Twitter, the tweet that was like the bulldog walking like,
yeah.
Everyone's tweeting like it's Pacheco.
Like he's almost become like his own type, like he's just like his own like type of guy. Like you never, like I feel like you never see, you don't see a guy run like him. It's just amazing.
Wait till I see Monangai.
Well, Monangai's a little bit different. Monangai makes guys miss. Pacheco doesn't necessarily make guys miss. He just runs through them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think also Pacheco is just such a physical specimen. Like, there's a thing called like speeds or I forget what it's called, but it's basically like it takes your weight into account. It's like size adjusted speed score, I think it is. So basically it takes like your weight and your 40 score or your 40 time, and it gives you like this score in terms of like how athletic you actually are. And he was one of the more athletic running backs in the last decade to come out. So he's just like a physical specimen. I think he ran the mid 4.3s at like 210 pounds at the combine.
Mhm.
And there's not many guys like him. So Manungai is definitely not that kind of physical specimen. But he is, he does have the same like stick your face in the fan type mentality that Pacheco has. And he has the potential to be, another guy in the league that, if you're a running back and you're not looking at Rutgers the same way if you're a defensive back and you're not looking at Rutgers, you're just kind of doing yourself a disservice. Gus Edwards, Isaiah Pacheco, etc.
Yeah. I got two things I want to sign off with. Number one, Max Melton Senior Bowl next Saturday. I don't know if we'll have another pod or not this week, so we might. I don't know actually. But yeah, that's huge for him, and they just put out a kind of dumb commercial on Twitter and social media. Rutgers did, and it's just like, yeah, Max has been acting kind of weird lately, and it's just Max eating like a million Reese's. And it's like, yeah, every time I see him, this man's just down in Reese's, and it's like,
oh my god,
Reese's. That's a different debate for a different pod. Also, the Knights of Honor. That was pretty cool. I do sort of like it. I was hoping more of like a Knights circle. Like when you hear Ring of Honor, Knights of Honor, you think it's going to be like a circle somewhere, kind of like the MetLife has the Jets and the Giants version of it. But they put their jerseys in the rafters, and I get it, but you better not give anyone those numbers from now on. Like it's like an unofficial retired, not retired number. Like I feel like you can't really give them away. And then who's next? Like because Sellers probably, I would think.
Well, Sellers is already retired.
Is he retired? Is that why?
Yeah, so
all right, that makes more
sense. They have like very strict rules about jersey number retirements. And he actually, he is retired. So, that number 12 won't be worn again.
All right, I read that wrong, incorrectly on the board. So all you guys who are yelling, Sellers should have been there in the Raptors. I think he is, I guess.
Yeah, maybe you're looking at like a Ron, Gio, Caleb. Those are kind of your guys, possibly maybe going apart.
I would say those three. I don't know if I'd go further. I'm just gonna say it. I'll say it. Be that guy. When you leave in June, you don't get it after. Or
June. I agree. Yeah, I agree. Although I was thinking that they could have called it the round table, but then I think we would have had to send a cease and desist.
Oh yeah. Hey, if they wanted to do it, I'd allow it. I'll let it go. Someone else already stole the round table.
Oh boy!
All right. Michael Thomas this Wednesday, by the way. Top NJ kid visiting. Forgot to mention that. It's on the boards already. It's been on the boards for a week. I forgot about it until a second ago.
So he's visiting campus, or he's making his announcement?
Visiting campus. No announcement yet. Visited Syracuse last weekend. Visiting Rutgers this week. I believe he has a Penn State visit for the 3rd, which is I think Saturday. Don't know, Saturday, Sunday, whatever the hell it is. Yeah, so that's it.
All right, so a lot going on this week. Rutgers basketball is also playing Wednesday versus Penn State. Looking to get back on track.
Better.
So we'll probably. Richie said we might not have one. We probably will have one at least. There's always news that breaks. So
sorry.
Yeah. But for me and the guys, it's been another edition of the Night Report podcast. Signing off.